Very special event. We have the largest gathering of women in the country on these ideas and these values by far. There's no such thing as a safe abortion. I believe it is an act of evil to destroy those that can't defend themselves. We have seen an all-out, relentless assault on women in this country. Even more than just individual women, but on the idea of a woman. We are on team reality here. This room can make the difference. Thank you. Please take a seat, everybody. Thank you. Wow, what a group. 9th Annual Young Women's Leadership Summit, everybody. Is that not amazing? First, I want to give a round of applause to the amazing Turning Point USA staff and events team that put all this on. Don't they do a great job? By the way, how great is all of this? All this botany, all this. It's great. I have nothing to do with all of this. There's nothing. None of it. It's so impressive and amazing. And from all the details to how they plan, it is truly remarkable. This event is one of the most successful things we have done in now our 12 years of Turning Point USA. We just had a 12th birthday. And which means that Turning Point USA is almost old enough to get home run blockers in California. So that's a pretty sick joke, but it's true. And it's amazing to see over the last 9 years how many amazing leaders have been able to come out of this event. But most importantly is seeing the friendships and the relationships that last a lifetime. And so I have to do this immediately because I always forget. This is very important. Who is attending this event and you basically know nobody here? Raise your hand. And you know, like, okay. So now that's incredible. So you keep your hand, now you have to keep your hand up. So for those of you that don't have your hands up, you have to go talk to those young ladies tonight, and then we're going to ask tomorrow who here knows, and there will be no hands that go up, okay? Go find those that came by yourself. It's amazing how many, that's over half the room, that came here and they know nobody, and they are traveling to be here and to try and meet new people and to really act boldly. I want to say a special thank you to the Duddleston Foundation that helped underwrite this entire event. Give it up to them. Thank you. Really great. And it's just really been something to see over the last couple of years how this has grown. So I just have a short remarks, then I want to spend almost all my time on question and answer because that's the most fun and that's what drives the media the most nuts. Because just so you know, I as a man am not allowed to give you advice. Not allowed. It is verboten. It is forbidden. So I definitely want to make sure we spend a lot of time on that. So there's a great book that was written in the 1940s, I think it's 1940s, by C.S. Lewis. Anyone like C.S. Lewis? I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan. It's great. And Chronicles of Narnia are great. They're all terrific. But there's one book in particular that I think is his greatest work, which is called Abolition of Man. And in Abolition of Man, he warns that if you do not have an objective understanding of what is good, what is true, what is beautiful, if you don't have the way or the Tao or a truth to live by, your entire society will fall apart. Now, he was writing this 80 or 90 years ago, the abolition of man. And if we are honest with ourselves, they've done a really good job of abolishing men in Western society. If I went around this room, I said, are you thrilled or not so happy with the status of American men right now? Would you say happy or not so happy? Yeah, not so happy. And most men would agree, but you should also have a little bit of sympathy for them, just a little bit. Because from the time that many of your brothers and many of your friends that are men are old enough to understand what's going on, there is a nonstop war against men in this country. And we need strong men in America. We need strong men in our communities. And you as young women leaders should demand that, should pray for that, and should expect that. However, we've seen the abolition of men in our country. We are now living through phase 2, which is the abolition of women. We've been doing this for 9 years. And the first time we started our Young Women's Leadership Summit 9 years ago, no one would even know what the transgender thing was. The pride flag was still the rainbow flag. Have you seen the new pride flag? It's like a triangle and a circle and a half circle and like a black circle because it's like the revolution. It keeps on continuing. By the way, it's not LGBT more. I think I got this right. Hold on, or else I'm a hater. LGBTQISA+. Is that right? Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, two-spirit. No, that's right. No, that's right. Two is in it too. What's the A? LGBT. I might have 1, 2, 3. That it could be. And it keeps on changing. You see, in the last 9 years, we have allowed them to keep on pushing forward in a way where it started where, you disagree. Like, okay, I believe marriage is one man and one woman, but I guess live and let live. And first they wanted you to affirm, and then they wanted you to celebrate, and then they wanted you to participate. And if you don't, they're willing to destroy your life. But it is bigger than that. And we are now at the precipice of the abolition of women in America. And that is why this event is so important as a message to the media and a message to people watching that you do not get to choose to be a woman. You are either a woman or you are a man, period. In fact, how insulting, how repulsive it is that womanhood is something you can appropriate as if it is a disguise or a costume or a Halloween outfit that you put on. Womanhood is a lot more than how you look. And it is very interesting to see because you could criticize men a fair amount, but we don't really put up with the trans thing very much. We just don't. Like, women pretend to be men. It's like, okay, you're obviously not a man. Like, get out of here. We're not going to put up with it. And we're honestly intolerant of it. And that's intolerance at its best. You should not be tolerant of lies. And so the next time that some of you have men who think they are women try to come up to you, say, yeah, you're actually not a woman. You're a man who has deep-seated mental problems. I hope you get help. And if you're uncomfortable saying that, you will lose womanhood. And this is why the trans thing is so dangerous, is they are preying on your decency. Is they are preying on how God made you, which is to be agreeable. Women are more agreeable than men. You might say, no, we're not. Yes, you are. I'm sorry, you are. Women are less likely to ask for raises. They're less likely to get in debates and arguments. You say, no, it's just how God made you. So the trans thing is a very pernicious threat because you do not want to be disagreeable, because God made men and women different, and women more than men want to be liked in the community that they're in. Just the way it is. And therefore, you do not want to be singled out for being the one person that says the obvious thing like, Dylan Mulvaney, you're a man. You're not a woman. Dylan Mulvaney, you're a man. And men will not be able to win this fight. This has to be a female-led fight to save womanhood, to save what a woman is. And it might require you to break some glass. It might require you to not put up with the BS or the nonsense. Now, some of you say, but Charlie, how do I, as a Christian, be loving to somebody that is suffering from gender dysphoria? Great question. The most loving thing one can do is refuse to lie. You lie to those people you don't love. You tell the truth to those that you love so much that you do not want to have them living in error. So when someone says, oh, you have to use my pronouns, it's she, her. Yeah, I'm not going to do that, actually. You're living a lie, and I refuse to lie. Like, you can call me whatever you want. You can fire me. You can throw me out of class. You can you can feather me. But at least I'll have my decency, and I'll be able to actually be obedient to the one thing that all of us should be obedient to, Almighty God, which is the most important thing. And I'm not going to bend a knee to your weird pseudo belief system. 2024, what is a woman, as Matt Walsh would ask the question? That is a question in front of us. What President Biden has done, President Biden signed Title IX, basically making one of the most radical steps in history towards the eradication of womanhood. And it's so amazing. I finally figured out, I said, where are the feminists? I now know where the feminists are. They're thrilled about this because they're like, oh, finally men feel our pain. That's literally what some of the feminists say. The feminists are not going to save you on this. What will save you is your own agency and your own action. And this room can be a force multiplier, can be a change agent in this world right now, in this country. Because it's one thing when I go up and I give a speech, they call me a hater and they kick me off of social media or whatever. It's another thing when those of you that are in sororities, when those of you that are in, your friend groups, when those of you that are leading or are participating in college sports, any college athletes out there, by the way, fair amount of hands going up. Where you're like, yeah, I refuse to compete against a man. We're not going to put up with that. And honestly, the leaders of the NCAA, including former governor of Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, should go to federal prison for endangering young female athletes by putting men in women's locker rooms. C.S. Lewis wrote many years ago that we are on the precipice of the abolition of man. We have now lived through that. Men have been all but abolished, weakened, emasculated, hyper-feminized, and now they are going after women. Why? And I'll close with this and we'll do questions. When God created the heavens and the earth in the beginning, first sentence of the Bible in the scriptures, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He created distinction and he created order. You cannot have a society if you do not have distinctions. Distinctions between good and evil. Distinctions between the holy and the profane. Distinctions between man and nature, and distinctions between male and female. You do not have a society if you do not have order. And you might say, oh, that doesn't, why does that matter? It's the most important thing. And that is why the enemy is launching a supernatural and spiritual attack to destroy womanhood, to do it through pronoun usage or flag wearing or allowing men in female locker rooms. Because without distinctions, then you are entering into a very dark new chapter that is against the natural law and against God's design. But it's not going to happen by itself. It's going to happen by every single one of you refusing to comply, not putting up with it, saying, no, I will not lie and I do not care what the cost is. I don't care if I have to live a tougher life, if I have to take an income hit. I don't care what it takes. But I will be able to turn to my family, my friends, and my creator. The only three things that matter. And hopefully eventually all of your future husbands or current husbands, which is to say, I stood for truth. I stood for righteousness, even when it was hard. What is the alternative? That you go work at some weird company and you're like in some data center and you earn like $100,000 a year, but you have to go use people's pronouns? That destroys your soul. That is slow motion suicide of the soul. You have a choice in front of you. Embrace courage to save women against the attempted abolition of women. Let's do some questions, everybody. Thank you so much. Let's do some questions.
We're going to start on your right.
Hey, Charlie. So I'm kind of in a pickle because I would like to pursue a route in politics. I'm not sure which avenue yet, but I've noticed that a lot of the people I'd like to work for say that college is a scam and it's dumb, but when you go to apply, you see that you need a bachelor's. So how do I maneuver that?
Yeah. So just take an unpaid internship, and most internships won't require that, but you're probably looking too traditionally. Look, college is a total scam. You shouldn't go to college. Honestly, it's a total waste of time. And you might be like, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? You got to trust me on this. Especially, I visited over 150 campuses in the last 12 years. Some of you might need it if you want to be, a doctor or a lawyer, I guess. But most of you are going to end up with a bunch of debt and really bad ideas, and you're going to have a piece of paper. And you'll know a lot about North African lesbian poetry, I guess, or whatever they teach. So, look, I'm not here to give specific career advice. I'm just going to tell you very specifically, very broadly, college is a waste of time and it's a racketeering operation. But I will say that is a limiting belief. So I didn't go to college, worked out fine. If you went to somebody running as a state rep or running for governor and be like, I will work harder, I will show up at 6 a.m., I will drive, I will do whatever it takes, hire me, I will work Saturday, I'll work Sunday, I'll work weekends, I'll work nights, I'll work overnights, and I'll work for minimum wage. They will hire you. And then you actually have to make good on your promise. But you're right. If you want an air-conditioned, cushy job, you need the piece of paper. But if you want to get hired and have a career and flourish, it's going to require you to work harder than even the people that have the piece of paper. And that's where all the college teaches you to be lazy and to work within the system. Whereas if you want to actually break through and be a differentiator, you're going to have to outwork the competition. And college certainly doesn't teach you that way. But anyway, and at Turning Point USA, we don't require a college degree to work here because the founder doesn't have one.
Thank you. Hi, Charlie. So my name is Taylor, and I survived a California high school. And I recently moved to Texas, and I now attend a community college here. And something I have noticed in both the high schools and the colleges here is just everybody's complacency with where we're at because they are from a more conservative place. They don't see the need to really have an opinion or speak about what they believe for the most part with the majority of my classmates. And so I'm just wondering how you would encourage and like motivate young people on these college campuses in conservative place to form more of their own opinions on what's happening.
Yeah, it's difficult. That's why starting Turning Point USA chapters are so important. Raise your hand if you're in a Turning Point USA chapter. That's almost the whole room. That's amazing. So start Turning Point chapters on high school or college campuses. By the way, if you are not yet a Turning Point leader, go to our tables out there and start a high school or college chapter as a call to action. And look, it's always going to be difficult, especially in conservative areas because they think everything is fine. But make no mistake, these elements, these woke left-wing elements are coming to a conservative area near you. That you are not immune to it just because you are in a conservative part of the world. So be a leader, do your best to it, make it interesting, and also remind them that, you know, in Texas, we have critical race theory was here. Thankfully, we got rid of it. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and the trans stuff is alive and well in even some of the most conservative parts of the country. But you're in a much better state in California, that's for sure. So God bless. Yes.
Hi, Mr. Charlie. So, as you know, for the first time in a very long time, this election is unique in that both candidates have a 4-year term to look at. And I know that you've spoken about this briefly. How do we adequately examine those two separate 4-year terms, given the circumstances, the unique circumstances surrounding Joe Biden's term, given coronavirus and things like that? How do you recommend that we actually compare them effectively?
Sure, yeah. It's not even close, right? I mean, I will say this on behalf of Turning Point Action or in my own personal opinion. I mean, just under Joe Biden, he's the worst president in American history. I truly believe that. Let's just look at three different things. The economy. Who here wants to own a home one day? Everybody wants to own a home? Who wants to get married, by the way, and have children? I love that. That really drives the media nuts. I love it. When Donald Trump was president, it required $71,000 a year to buy a home in America. Now, when Joe Biden is president, it requires $121,000 a year to buy a home in this country. But have you seen how expensive everything is in the grocery store? That is not a mistake. That is an intentional byproduct of Joe Biden's spending spree that was not connected to COVID. That was him deciding to do the infrastructure bill, deficit spending bills, and borrowing trillions and trillions of dollars and hyperinflate the economy. Everything is more expensive, and you are poorer as a result. So the economy is total trash, and people are poor. Number two, the border. If you care about women, and if you care about children, Joe Biden should be in Gitmo for allowing the southern border to continue because there are 10 to 15,000 people a day, that many of whom are being trafficked and sex trafficked in the southern border every single day. Donald Trump had the most secure border in history. We have the greatest open border. The greatest slave trade in modern American history is happening right now, not far from here on the southern border, involving children and involving women. And lots of missing children, by the way. You know there's 88,000 missing kids in America just on the southern border? The media doesn't cover it because Joe Biden is president. 88,000 missing kids that we know of. The third is war. Blessed are the peacemakers, right? They like to attack Donald Trump a lot. First president in 40 years to start no new wars. No new wars. He brought peace to the Middle East and brokered peace between Israel, UAE, and many other countries. Under Joe Biden, we have war in Israel, we have war in Yemen, and of course the Russian-Ukrainian war. The world is falling apart under Joe Biden. Under Donald Trump, it was safe and stable and prosperous. So you're right, for the first time since the 1892 election, when we have Grover Cleveland v. Benjamin Harrison, we have two independent terms to compare. We call that an A-B test. and it's not even close. Under one president, you were getting wealthier. Under one president, your dollar was worth more. Under one president, you were well on your way to be able to own property, to be able to pay off your mortgage, to be able to see your wages go up. Under the other president, you are getting poorer, your wages are going down, your country is deteriorating, there are wars domestic and wars abroad, and we have the largest slave trade in modern American history having on the southern border. I don't think it's much of a close call. God bless. Thanks so much. We'll do a couple more. Yes.
Hi, my name is Anne. So I am a full-time civil engineer, but I am studying to become a functional hormone specialist because I am so passionate about helping women know who they truly are and to know who to follow their instincts. So women go through 4 phases each month where their energy and mood fluctuates. So how do you encourage men as husbands, coworkers, and friends to truly respect women's 28-day hormonal fluctuations?
You have the fruits of the Holy Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control. And we as husbands are called to love our wives, and my amazing wife, Erica, couldn't be here, by the way, because we now have 2 kids. Baby boy just welcomed to the world. And she's incredible and she's amazing, but we are called to love our wives as Christ loved the church. That is a big deal. And so I can't speak to the specific cycling that you talk about here, but all I can say is that as men, we are called to lead. We are called to be the head of the house. And my challenge for many of you is that you are going to be infiltrated with this feminist nonsense that you have to lead the house or that you have to bring the money in. Try to find a man that is able to provide for the family enough money, enough resources, so that if you so choose, you could be a stay-at-home mom. If you so choose. And that is, that's a beautiful thing, I could tell you. So that's the best answer to that I can give. Thank you.
Hi, Charlie. Proud stay-at-home mom, by the way.
Isn't it the best? Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, can I just say one thing? The media has done one of the most evil things where they act as if a stay-at-home mom is not a job. It is the most important task an individual can take, period. I think it is so, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I mean that. It is so nasty and so wrong. Stay-at-home moms are heroes, and we need more stay-at-home moms in this country, not less. Okay.
Amen. Totally agree with you. So I want to have a big family. I want to homeschool. I want to homestead. I want to do all that stuff with my kids. He's my first one, but I want to have a big family. And the overwhelming response that I get when I tell people that I want to have 5, 6, maybe 7 kids is so negative. And they're like, oh, why would you want to do that? That sounds terrible. You're crazy. I'm like, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I want to understand. Thank you. I want to understand how we can help change this stigma against people wanting to have bigger families, because I think it's better for the country, like you say. It just makes you more conservative. So how do we change that stigma against
I think we have to be honest, though, that self-love, by the way, is one of the most dangerous things happening in America. Self-love is not biblical. Self-love leads to suicide. Self-love leads to self-harm. Self-love is one of the reasons why we see so many young ladies have mental health issues. And when you have children, it is the death of self-love. Now you might say, well, what then should you have self-respect, not self-love? Big difference. When you have children, though, you realize it's not all about you. You get up at 2 a.m. because you have to serve something else. You have to serve another human being that is not you. Having children is more about duty and obligation, not about narcissism and pleasure. And we must talk about in society what one ought to do, not what one wants to do. And what we have done in America far too often is we say, I am my own boss. I get to call my own shots. It works for some people, but for most people, that actually is a life of misery. That is a life that is without direction. And for almost every single one of you here, God wired into you a biological urge and a need to reproduce and to raise children. And so we should celebrate big families. In fact, I think it would be awesome for the looming fertility crisis if everyone here had 7 children. I think that would be amazing. And if that happened, that would be 15,000 human beings. And that would be a good start. Because people say no less than 7. I think 7's a good start. I think 7's good. Or whatever number, 4, 5, 6. And you might say, oh, Charlie, but I think in some ways though, I totally get the hesitancy and all that, but I could tell you the people with big families, and I know a lot of wealthy people, like the wealthiest people in society I've met, literally the richest people in the world I've met, okay? The wealthiest people that I know are the ones with biggest families. And they're the ones that, by the way, big families, they are never lacking in purpose, they are never lacking in direction, and they're never bored. Now, this is very important. The most unhappy people in America are bored. I want you to think about that. Boredom is a gateway to deep unhappiness. So it's not easy. Raising children is hard. It is a death to yourself. It is one of the most difficult things you can do. But it is one of the most rewarding things that God gave us, and one of the most important, because children are a gift from the Lord. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you.
All right, we'll do a couple more. Yes.
Bonjour. I flew all the way from Montreal, Canada to be
Wow,
here.
welcome.
Thank you.
That is so wonderful to have someone from a communist country visit our...
Well, actually, some of the things that you said would technically be a criminal offense in Canada.
That's
For
right.
real.
That
For
is,
real.
Can you elaborate on that, by the way? Yeah.
I would rather not.
All right. That's fine.
Apologies. So, as you can imagine, coming from Canada, the number of single Christian conservative men is pretty much zero. So what dating advice would you give to somebody who is in that sort of situation?
So that's a great question. First option, move to Alberta. So you tried to move to Calgary and Alberta, didn't work? Yeah, no, okay, didn't work. Okay, got it. Here's my next idea. Just cross illegally into America. We got like 15,000 people a day. We'll grant you asylum. You get a cell phone, you get welfare, you get a flight to any city of your choosing. Move to Midland, Texas. You'll find a husband in an afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, Charlie. What an honor and a blessing it is to be able to speak to you today. And despite the left's best effort, I stand here as a Christian, conservative, right-leaning black woman who will be voting for Trump in 2024. Okay? And I'm so black. They can't tell me otherwise. My question today for you, sir, is given the need to show the black community tangible benefits to increase engagement and gain voters, what do you feel, or which initiatives and policies do you feel best benefit black women?
So I love this, and this is what's so important. I refuse to ever pander, and so my message is the same to all communities, all backgrounds. I think the message to black women is that we as conservatives, we are fighting to make sure that your children are going to be able to break free of the public government school system and be able to choose better educational options for your kids, number one. Number two, we as conservatives want to adequately fund the police so that your children do not have to worry about gang crime when they go play in the park at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And number three, which I think is so important, we want to make sure that you can reasonably afford to feed your family every day at dinner, that we want to keep grocery prices under control, that your dollar keeps on expanding. We want to make sure that your kids have a beautiful country to live in. So those are the three things in particular. And I'm so excited that you're here, because I could tell you that what the left and the Marxists have done to black America is one of the great high crimes in American history. The bigotry of low expectations, government programs. And that is why, Candace Owens, we work together. Blexit is now a project at Turning Point USA. Love to have you get involved in that. I am so optimistic about how thousands and tens of thousands, hopefully millions of black Americans are going to leave the left and join the conservative movement. God bless you. Thank you so much.
One more thing. Christ is King. God bless you.
Amen. Yes, he is. Christ is King.
Amen. Hi, Charlie. My name is Emma Sprescu, and I'm the president of our chapter at Cal State Long Beach. I want to thank you for everything that you've done. You've created Turning Point USA, and you've given us something to invest in, to hope for, our country. And on a different note, congrats on the birth of your second child. And I want to ask, how did you know your wife, Erica, was the one?
Oh, that's knew almost immediately. I met her and we had a very, very long dinner, which was very close to almost an interview. And no, you're going to laugh, but you should absolutely interview for your spouse. By the way, if they don't check the boxes, move on and go to the next one. Dating for dating's sake is bad for you. It's bad for them. It's bad for everybody. You should date with the intent to marry. And all of a sudden, here is this the most beautiful woman in the world, and she knows scripture, and she has her own company, and she's just amazing. I said, this is just awesome. And the rest, as they say, is history. And so, however, and I think I can say this from a male perspective, one of the problems is that young ladies are led to believe to get male attention, you have to throw yourself out there. I'm going to be very diplomatic, okay? When in reality, men seek what they can't have. And to make yourself harder, I know this might be hard for some of you because you say, no, I want men to like me, I want this. But to make yourself more desirable, you actually have to try to sometimes wall yourself off and have to have men earn the right to be able to date you, that they have to court you. And in the era of hookup culture and quick seeking pleasure, that is very difficult. However, men are wired very differently than women. And one of the most important things that you have to learn is that men do not view, especially sex and relationships, the way that you do, especially young men. Young men do not look at sex a lot of times as, let's say, a culmination of a deep personal and spiritual bond. A lot of times it's purely physical and it's simple as that. And for a lot of young ladies, they don't quite understand that. They think that the counterpart of the male views it the same way they do. And that leaves with a lot of brokenness and regret and confusion and torment. And hookup culture has hurt men, but it's really, really hurt women. It has not hurt men nearly as much. And so that's just a general piece of advice. And pray to God. And also, you have to make a decision that in your early 20s, are you going to prioritize career or a husband? And you might say, oh, it's not either or. It's not either or. However, you run the risk as you get into your late 20s and early 30s to all of a sudden say, I can't find the one, I can't find the one. And my hope for you is that you don't have to be in that situation. And so if you prioritize it, if you make it your number one priority, then you obviously dramatically improve your chances. What I have found is when young ladies say, I can get to that later, I can get to that later, is that you might end up in your mid-30s with a lot of regret and a lot of cats. Thank you so much.
I really enjoy listening to your debates on the street, and when I get older, I want to be a lawyer and then a legislator. So my question is, besides being right, what advice do you have to be good at arguing and debating?
That's great. Practice. Always try to read and write as much as you can. The best lawyers are great writers, and that is very, very important. And this is a great piece of advice for all of you. I am so routinely underwhelmed by how lackluster the writing of our nation's youth is. And I see this, just the sloppiness, not just the grammar, that's one thing, but the lack of sophistication. If you become an excellent writer, you will be hired immediately. Now with ChatGPT, that might not last very long. However, that just for the short period of time. In law, though, especially, you're constantly writing. So do you like to write? Good, you're going into the right profession then. If you don't like to write, do not become a lawyer. It is 90% reading and writing. It is not just like going to court and owning the other guy. The other part, though, is that when you see the street debates, that is very little of what law is. What law usually is you get a brief and you have a week to respond. And so if you really enjoy the nuance and the texture and the substance of debates, that's something that is that you're going to the right field for. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll do two more. We'll go here and there, and then we're out of time. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Sophia. Thank you for hearing me, Mr. Kirk. I have a question. I'm from Kentucky. This is actually kind of happened to me. Two things. One, what do I do whenever I don't know the legitimate gender of a person? Like what their biological gender is?
No, that's a great question. So here's what's important. And some people will say, well, Charlie, you get tricked because someone who is, a biological man can make you think that they're a woman. Just because you are able to wear a disguise does not mean you are the thing that you wish to be. All of a sudden, for example, if you wear blackface, that doesn't make you black, for example, right? If you can't tell, you can ask. You say, what were you born at? What are you? Exactly. And if they refuse to answer, be like, okay, I'm going to do my best guess, bro or girl or whatever. And again, it's not that it's so incredibly important. What is more, that's an important question. What I'm talking about with pronouns and all that is when you know what is not true and you decide to say something that is untrue. That is more important than if you're confused. And I want to be very clear. You don't have to be impolite, but you have to be truthful. And so you don't have to be cruel, but you will be at an intersection where even you could say someone is going to, that's what is so sick about the pronoun thing. And Jordan Peterson picked this fight many, many years ago in Canada, which is you're going to force me to say something I know that is not legit. We see the ramifications of that. We see where that leads. So thank you so much and God bless you. Thank you. Final question.
Hi, Charlie. I love the marketplace of free ideas. So I heard the idea of mass deportation from you first. I understand your why, but I want to understand your how. Like, be as specific as you can. Is there going to be this is hypothetical, but like, how would this work for real?
So, great question. First, there's over 1 million illegals in our prisons right now. Every one of them go back to their country of origin. So you don't have to search very far for there. Number two is that we know of at least another 2 or 3 million illegals that are in this country that have committed some form of a felony, DUI, so we know where those are. And then number three, as they surface themselves and they commit crimes and as they start to pop up, you say, okay, we're going to the local ICE office and you're going home. Like, it's that simple. Then there's another 5 to 6 million people where we know where they live, we know where they are. We just haven't given the green light for Immigration Customs Enforcement to then go and say, you know, again, it's not a matter of like you raid the home with handcuffs. You just say, look, you knock on the door, like, we know you're not here legally. You have a week to report back and you get a free flight back to Honduras or wherever your country of origin is. And so that sort of deportation is really necessary. And every single person that is illegally crossing the United States of America should be humanely and quickly returned back to their country of origin. Every single individual. And if that might be very hard for some people to stomach, but you do not get to pick what laws you enforce. To take a page out of the left, no one is above the law. They keep on saying that, like, okay, if no one is above the law, then, you know, the guy that just crossed the southern border from the Chinese Communist Party, who's now in San Francisco, he goes back to his country of origin. We need to be a country that values justice and values the rule of law. One of the reasons why they're invading the country and they're allowing it to happen is they want to see the elimination of the rule of law, like so many of our other cherished things. Thank you so much. So, all right, in closing, everybody, I won't be here for the remainder of the conference because I have to go back to our 3-week-old, but I wanted to make sure I was here to help open the conference. A couple marching orders. Number one, if you are here and you don't know anybody, we're going to make sure that you get connected to a new friend group and that you leave with the best friends for a lifetime. Number two, please go start a Turning Point USA chapter. If you get fired up and if you get convicted, go start a Turning Point USA chapter. And finally, and most importantly, this event will become more powerful over time if you decide to implement it into action, to become a force multiplier. If you feel called and you live in Georgia, or you live in Arizona, or you live in Wisconsin, or you live in Pennsylvania, or you live in Michigan, and you feel called, you say, you know what? I want to do everything I can to make sure Joe Biden's not president. Involve yourself and volunteer at the local Republican office. Get involved with Turning Point Action. If you feel called to say, you know what? I'm going to start a protest at my local high school saying no boys in our locker room. Do that. We will support you. Find your calling, engage in that. Or if you say, boy, my calling is to go find a husband and have 7 kids, then God bless you because we need that as well. So thank you all so much. God bless you and thank you.